Good evening. My name is Matthew Mazuroski, and I'm going to do a monologue for you tonight from The Merchant of Venice by William Shakespeare. Signor Antonio, many a time and oft in the Rialto, you have rated me about my moneys and my usages. Still I have borne it with a patient shrug, for sufferance is the badge of all our tribe. You call me misbeliever, cutthroat dog, and spit upon my Jewish gabardine, and all for use of that which is mine own. Well then, it now appears you need my help. What should I say to you? Should I not say, hath the dog money? Is it possible a cur can lend 3,000 ducats? Or shall I bend low and in a bondman's key with bated breath and whispering humbleness say this? Fair sir, you spit on me at Wednesday last. You spurned me such a day. Another time you called me dog. And for these courtesies I'll lend you thus much moneys.
I am Adrienne Grafton, an adjunct professor at YSU in the art department. My love of creating began with metalsmithing, jewelry, and enameling, and now my most recent work is sculptural. I use wood, plaster, metal, and fabric to convey a personal narrative about my grief since my mother's death. I recreate recognizable objects to tell my story. The pieces are about connecting with the past, hidden emotions, and moments that seem trivial at the time until now, when they are no longer. Ladders, in particular those with broken rungs, have been a repeated object in my work through the years. For me, the broken rung suggests a moment that is gone and now out of reach. This piece, titled Her, Me, has 37 rungs, each one representing a year my mom and I were in one another's lives. The final rung is broken, signifying the end of our time together. Her, Me is also a necklace. When worn, I feel the weight of the piece and view it as a timeline of our years. It is fabricated from wood, steel, sterling silver, and has a rubbed shoe polish finish. Year after year after year has 69 balloons on a board intended to represent a funeral wreath. A dart made of sterling silver and brass sits apart from the wreath, waiting to be picked up and thrown at the balloons. My mom lived to be 69 years old. Although she had been sick, she had no intention of dying. I think it came as a surprise to her, and it for sure did for me. It felt very sudden. We had time, and then suddenly we didn't. Year after year after year represents how quickly time seems to pass for me. These porcelain slip-cast hand sanitizers were part of my 2019 exhibition titled Transplant. This piece is called Sanitize. When my mom was undergoing 2 separate stem cell transplants to keep her multiple myeloma at bay, she was sequestered to a small wing of the hospital and her immune system was very weak. I was constantly aware of germs. The hospital had hand sanitizing machines around every corner and beside every door. Even if I had just sanitized my hands, I found that a few steps down the hallway, I was doing it again. I did not want to risk passing anything on to her. The smell of the sanitizer takes me back to those days in the hospital with her. I was scared and she was sick, but I can't help but feel I'd still like to be in that moment. Creating these pieces was a very repetitive process. Pour the slip, set the timer, wait, dump the slip, set the timer, wait, open the mold, clean up the casting, let the mold dry, start again. I find this process very therapeutic. Creating work about memories helps me to stay connected to the past and remember a time that no longer exists. Although sad, I do find a sense of happiness reliving these moments in my head and through my work.
When the evening shadows fall and the lovely day is through, then with longing I recall the years I spent with you. Solo per te la mia canzone vola. Mamma, sarai con me, tu non sarai più sola. Quanto ti voglio bene, queste parole ti sospira il mio cuore, forse non si sono più. Mamma, ma la canzone vita non ti lascio mai più. Quanto ti voglio bene, queste parole d'amore, che ti sospira il mio cuore, forse non si sono più. Ma la canzone mia più bella sei tu. Sei tu la vita, e per la vita non ti lascio mai più.
Hi, my name is Isaac Hraga, and I'm an alumni of Youngstown State University. For this video presentation, I'll be discussing composition for a dynamic video game soundtrack and sound design. To start, I'll be going over the history of how I got into video game sound design, and then I'll walk you through a project that I worked on for one of the classes in the video game minor offered here at YSU. In the spring of 2018, I posted flyers around Bliss Hall trying to find people to work on video games with. Soon after, I was approached by Dr. Stephen Reali, who expressed interest in test running a video game music composition lesson to supplement the video game minor that was currently in the works. In the subsequent semester, we collaborated on a project I'm about to show, which ended up being a great learning experience for me, but can also serve as a model to take students with no experience in video game sound design to being able to present an effective video game soundtrack. To start this project, we first need a video game to work with. Luckily for us, there are now comprehensive computer programs that make creating a video game fairly easy. I built a tutorial game offered by one of these programs, and this was the result. Now, as you heard, this tutorial provided me with a soundtrack, but from a musical standpoint, it offered nothing to help the player immerse themselves within the game, which is the primary role of a soundtrack. So, I scrapped it and started composing my own. To connect the player to the game, I wanted to reinforce what was already being offered, both from a thematic and a technical viewpoint. On the technical side, the player is fighting off an ever-increasing number of enemies, which emotionally feels like a constant buildup of tension until the character eventually dies and the tension is resolved. To reinforce this, I composed a looping piece of music and kept adding layers on top of it to increase the density, which adds to the tension. From a thematic viewpoint, the game is about a child waking up in a nightmare and having to fight off its stuffed animals. I represented the child with a music box melody, and then the nightmare with an ethereal sounding cello. Now, what I love most about video game soundtracks is their ability to change in direct response to what's happening in the game. I took 4 of the most important in-game elements and wrote specific music for them. When the character gets hurt, this plays, and that increases in volume, which draws attention to the player's dwindling health. When the character dies, this plays, and that resolves the tension from the previous music, while in the background the cello plays an uncomfortable note which subtly urges the player to play again to get some sonic resolution. When the Hellfant comes out, it's preceded by this, and then the soundtrack is overtaken by this. and these let the player know that they need to focus on a new, more dangerous enemy. When the player kills the Elephant, this plays, and that later resolves back into the main soundtrack and lets the player know that they've accomplished something. With all that set in place, it's time to hear the final product. Make sure to listen for the background music, the violin swell that precedes the elephant music, the elephant music, the health music, and the transition to the death state. As I stated earlier, this project was completed for one of the music classes in the interdisciplinary video game minor, which I graduated with last December. This video game minor allowed me to turn my senior capstone project into a multidisciplinary endeavor which heavily relied on the art, CSIS, and music departments, which enabled me to create my own video game entirely from scratch. If you have any questions about this presentation or about the video game minor, please feel free to email me at the included address. Thanks for watching.
Always want me up like a smooth jazz tone. You're so classic, like a fine wine. Let me sip on you. Ain't nobody
My name is Missy McCormick, and I am an Associate Professor of Art and have taught ceramics at Youngstown State University since 2012. Primarily a ceramist, I usually work with form and surface in 3 dimensions, creating functional forms that are made to be held and used daily. My work most commonly is made to reside within domestic spaces as a primary way to engage the viewer. In the last 5 years, I've begun to incorporate sculptural, installation, and photographic formats into new bodies of work, which speak to more emotional and theoretical perspectives on domesticity and daily life. I have worked on 2 main bodies of work concurrently: an evolving body of ceramic utilitarian forms and a new 2-dimensional body of photographic works that have developed from close-up detailed images of my fired ceramic surfaces. When arranged in a tessellated format, which gives a nod to domestic tile work, the abstracted compositions reveal new and unexpected patterns, and often shapes emerge. This exploration of the ceramic surface has opened up a visual language and conceptual dialogue, taking the work in a related but vastly different and exciting new direction. My creative interest is to convey a contemplative aesthetic, a sense of structure and subtlety that imbues solace. Literal and visual atmosphere has been a focal point in my work for more than 20 years. It seems that I have always been captivated by fire and its meditative effects. I was drawn to the intensive process of wood and soda firing early on in my education. These firing methods allow the flame and volatile gases in the kiln to leave its mark along each form as it makes its way through the kiln. Currently, the atmospheric effects on my works are achieved by applying multiple layers of terra sigillata, a traditional fine-particled clay material, and topped with caustic washes on the unfired surface to create a variable layered depth that responds differently on each form when fired in an electric kiln. As I develop this low-fire ceramic surface that produces the depth and visual complexities of traditional high-fire atmospheric firing methods, I document my research and results through detailed photographs. These abstracted compositions led to a body of work which holds a similar aesthetic of the original ceramic objects, but seem to reveal more conceptual and psychoanalytical truths. The macro lens allows me to re-experience the captured composition, flat and unencumbered by its original form, inviting experimentation and discovery, which has ignited this ongoing body of work that has challenged me in new ways both technically and creatively. In these works, atmospheric space creates shapes that become compressed, stretched, or takes form, and contrasts with bold color fields or patterns that often fight for importance. As this 2-dimensional work has become a sort of manifestation of how I internally respond to the world around me, they have evolved into a series of meditative inkblots of sorts. Each of these photographic groupings embody relatable, personal experiences. In these tessellated abstractions, the ever-shifting, poignant moments of life visually reveal themselves. From being overcome with joy to the oppressive overwhelm of stress, the range of experience goes hand in hand with the trials and pursuits to find life's balance.
Thank